Rodgers is off his rocker. But I think Rodgers is smart enough to know that a lot of this is perceived negatively,
Mm-hmm.
and he, being in the public eye, he's careful.
Sure.
And it doesn't seem like it, right? Because, he had the whole thing with the jab, and
But
he seems to just say anything that comes to his mind, and it gets him in trouble. But he's really actually quite...
he keeps the really bad stuff.
Yeah, he's smart enough to know not to say some things.
Well, and I wonder that all the time. Like it's like the whole Mel Gibson thing. Like you can put out some things that bother people, but behind the scenes you're way worse. And like I always wonder if that's the public, what you're willing to share with the public. God, what aren't you willing to share? It's like that's like the jab, and you know that the big right hand is coming behind it, and it's always way worse.
So quite a bit of back and forth, he said, on COVID being fake.
Sure.
He believes COVID was a conspiracy, and he believes that the vaccine hurt people. He believes that it is possible that Anthony Fauci made the vaccine in order to get rich.
One of those.
And no one actually died.
What?
Yeah.
No one died?
Nope.
The million people?
Made up.
He thinks that the people being put in freezers in New York, that was...
Key point here.
Okay.
He believes it is possible.
This is the other one that drives me a little crazy, because, like, I'm not the biggest Joe Rogan guy, far from it. I've listened to him from time to time, but I can't much anymore, because his whole thing, he hides behind the, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like, you promote some of the most awful Alex Jones level BS, and then you try to skirt.
You put stuff out there,
but you
don't own it.
Yeah, you don't own it. You're like, I could see it happen. I'm not saying that it is, but boy, there's a lot of questions, and I hate that. If you're gonna do it, own it. At least own it.
Yeah.
I hate that Mickey Mouse refusing to take a stand. You throw out really hurtful, awful things, but then you step back from the ledge.
Don't you think that's because these guys deep down know how silly some of this stuff is?
Well, I don't know. Then why are you? Then what? Then why?
I think it's just because they know it gets.
I guess
clicks.
I don't
an
know.
Audience. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers believes that immigrants are sent to the United States to infiltrate the military in order to gain citizenship and turn against the U.S.
Wow, that's
a crazy one.
Yeah. He agrees with Eddie Bravo that there's no need for medicine or vaccines because your body just needs to push sickness out.
Jesus.
Rodgers takes that a step further than just viruses and germs, and he actually says, hey, have you looked into this same idea with parasites being in the same realm? Bravo then cited 20 studies saying that people can't get each other sick. That's a thing with these guys.
What?
Yeah.
So I'm just... Look, there's a lot of dumb happening here, but there's no need... So smallpox? That... No? Our body just... Polio?
So on this whole conversation, Keeley says that Rodgers then circles back to experimental gene therapy.
Oh, yeah.
And he says that he believes that the COVID jab is just that.
Oh, yeah.
And it changes our DNA.
Of course.
Quote, this is Aaron Rodgers' quote from the Eddie Bravo podcast.
And are we sure this is real? We're not getting ball sacked here. This is really Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah. Oh. He went and listened to it.
Wow.
Quote, they vaxxed millions and millions of Americans, right? Who knows what this is going to do to us? There was a gentleman early on, there's a video, you can find it. He basically admits if we called this what it is, it's experimental gene therapy, maybe 5% of people would have signed up for it. But when you tag the term vaccine to it, then you open up the whole other thing. So if you question a vaccine, now you're anti-science, now you're a tinfoil hat wearer, now you're a quack, and now you're anti-medicine, anti-health, right? And that's what they did. That's what they did. And then they can vilify whoever they want to vilify, end quote.
Okay. I still think that's not as... Look, that's one thing, but that's like the third worst thing that I've heard so far from him.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can find more.
Yeah, keep digging.
Rodgers follows up that theory with theories on how many young athletes who died were forced to retire.
What?
Because of the jab. He's blaming.
Died?
Yeah, he says that many young athletes who died or were forced to retire.
Oh, or all right.
Yeah, sorry, it was because of the jab.
Of course.
He said he does not like Trump, and the reason he doesn't like Trump is because Trump did not drain the swamp like he said he would.
Mm-hmm.
He says that Trump kept Fauci in power and allowed him to make the jab and make millions of dollars. This is why he likes Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
So that's how he got to that whole thing
Okay.
about being on his ticket. He's got this thing about not really knowing who's in power,
Oh,
and that's not a huge.
He's doing the one world government thing.
Yeah, he's just. I think a lot of people are like, some of these guys are puppets. Like they think Biden's a puppet or Trump's a puppet.
Sure.
Well,
this is like the whole thing. I said I've heard that Eddie Bravo does the one world government where he thinks that there's one
controlling group,
thing that makes all decisions
like
in the world.
Bilderberg group or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think Rodgers believes that. He went into a further thing. I left it out of these notes, but he was talking about just all of the just various entities behind the U.S. government,
Sure.
or in and amongst the U.S. government that control things. Okay. He admits that his affinity for questioning things started with Lee Harvey Oswald. He says that he studied JFK extensively, and he was our last great president, according to Aaron Rodgers.
Makes sense.
He then gets into Election Day. Now, this isn't that out there. He said he thinks it should be a national holiday. He thinks everyone should go and vote, and that votes should be tabulated that day. Then he goes into a deep dive on social media companies censoring certain experts who just are stating professional opinion.
Sure.
And now they get to Tartarian Empire. Now, have you heard of this?
I don't think so. Tartarian?
Yes.
I don't know this one.
This is a conspiracy theory. It is called the QAnon of architecture. It's something about buildings not matching or something. I don't know, dude.
Huh.
But Rodgers believes that the World's Fair buildings of the early 1900s were capital cities for the Tartarian Empire.
So aliens, what we're talking about, right?
I don't know.
That's the only
honestly,
thing I can think of?
I can't.
Tartarian?
Yeah, look it up.
All right.
He also thinks the Rockefellers were a bad influence on humanity. He went into another thing about rich people and what they brought to society, and it's not great. So now, at this point of reading through this, I'm just exhausted and losing interest. Basically, it sounds to me like
by the way, the Tartarian Empire is a lost civilization. Like, it just sounds like, think about like the idea that they're the people that built the pyramids and all that and the Great Wall and all that came from a society that's been erased, but they were more advanced than we were, it sounds like.
To me, it just sounds like Aaron Rodgers believes pretty much everything he reads.
I can see that.
And when you are as skeptical as him, you start to read stuff that validates those conspiracies, and that's how you get down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Right? And then you start reading all the stuff that's way down in the rabbit hole that's not even remotely right, but you believe it.
Well, this is like it's the theory of that if you find out that someone lied to you, and by the way, governments lie to us and
all the time,
and science changes quite a bit. I mean, you go back and it's like, the food pyramid or, whatever, like we know that stuff is constantly changing, or someone did have an agenda and push something in they shouldn't have. So, and once you have been proven correct, or you find out that someone lied, then everything is a lie. And that's the dangerous part. And like you said, I think that's how this happens.
What he admits that's how he works.
Yeah. So
once it started with Lee Harvey Oswald.
Once you believe that they killed Kennedy and that it wasn't what was put out there, and that seems to be a fairly reasonable theory for most people. If they're willing to do that, then what aren't they willing to do? And that's the scary thing, is then everything becomes a conspiracy. And I just got to believe that is just exhausting.
It is exhausting. And what drives me crazy about people like him is they shift blame to other people who criticize their absurd beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? That drives me crazy. Look, believe what you want. I don't care. Maybe you're right. But don't just go, oh, he gets all whiny and bitchy about people who make fun of him for it.
They gaslight you into believing that you're the stupid one.
Yeah, like, F you, dude.
And because he has the platform to do so, idiots believe
Those people aren't the villains for pointing out that you think stupid stuff. If you think stupid stuff, you're going to get crap for it. God.
I still like that there's no need for vaccines or medicine because,
yeah. Is that your favorite out of that?
That's my favorite.
No, mine is the Anthony Fauci got rich off of the pandemic. Are you freaking kidding me?
That's fact, you jerk.
No, okay, excuse me.
Follow the money.
He created the
Follow
vaccine
the
himself
money.
to get rich off of it, though. My God.
Hillary told us that. Follow the money.
Genius.
Let me read you. Okay, so that's the end of it.
All right.
I surmised it as best I could. It's really long.
Yeah.
That was Aaron Rodgers on the Eddie Bravo podcast, and this guy Sean Keeley went in and listened to all of it. So that's the gist. I want to read you though Keeley's last few paragraphs.
Okay.
This is the writer. He says, in all seriousness, one of the things that becomes abundantly clear when you listen to Rodgers talk long enough is that he does not know what he does not know, and he's more than happy to continue not knowing it. Yeah. He sees so much of the world through the lens of someone who has never had to get in the muck and deal with reality. His common sense ideas have occurred to everyone, but he lacks the grounding to understand why they're not in place, not to mention who is responsible for that. And he presumes that it means everyone else must be dumber than him, rather than concluding that he needs to educate himself further. Not to mention, it becomes clear that while he appreciates being able to question things, he very clearly focuses that skepticism on specific areas and not others. He truly embodies the college sophomore problem.
Yes.
If nothing else, living your life as if everything is a conspiracy just sounds depressingly exhausting.
And that was my point.
And I thought that last bit of commentary there from Keeley was spot on. That's it. And it's just, and he doesn't see it.
No, but I love the sophomore college thing. Whatever book you just read is what you believe.
Is your new big thing.
I read most of what I read or listen to. I do books on tape. That's
not reading.
Yeah, it's not reading. I
listening.
I listen to other people read. It's almost all nonfiction. I'm very interested in ancient civilization stuff. And the biggest thing that I have to tell myself when I read something is it's an opinion. If I read a book on a lost civilization, you can't take that as gospel truth. That is one man's interpretation of it's not concrete. It's all theory. It's all it is. And so I absolutely see where people read what is a nonfiction book and they're like, well, that's true. I read it. Or because some of that stuff, by the way, some of the wackadoo conspiracy theories, you can watch something like on the fake moon landing. And if that's all you watch, you'll come away that the moon landing is fake. And then you can turn around and watch someone who rebukes and rebuts every point that they make. And you're like, oh God, well, you totally see the other side of it. People are really good at putting their point of view out there. And that's the college sophomore thing, is you just believe everything that you read that is contradictory to what normal society or the vast majority of people believe.
And that is a segment entitled All the Wild Crap Aaron Rodgers Thinks.
All right.
Bye.
At least he's not a flat earther.
That we know of.
Well, Eddie Bravo's a flat earther, so...
Is Eddie Bravo like Joe Rogan, but like times 1,000?
Yes.
Okay.
The best way I can describe it, I told Rob that off the air. I said, if you can't stand Joe Rogan, then you'll hate Eddie Bravo.
I don't mind Joe Rogan.
Eddie Bravo is Joe Rogan turned up by like 14.
Rogan actually does say some very crazy stuff, but there's a couple of smart things thrown in there. This guy sounds like it's just all crazy balls to the walls all the time.